A surge of adrenaline shot through me. I twisted the knob again, harder, ignoring the burning in my fingers. I slammed my shoulder against the door. Once, twice, 3 times. It finally gave way. I stumbled into the hallway, nearly falling over. The light was on. The apartment looked normal, as if nothing had happened. But when I turned back toward my bedroom, the door was closed, and I knew. I hadn't shut it. Silence. The hallway was empty. The air felt still, too still, like the world had paused just for me. My chest rose and fell, with ragged breaths as I stared at the closed bedroom door, my fingers still trembling from the rush of adrenaline. I should have left. I should have run. But something kept me there. I swallowed hard, my throat dry, my heart beat a deafening echo in my ears. Slowly, I reached for the doorknob, my hand hovering over the cold metal. A voice in my head screamed, "Don't," but I needed to know. With a shaking breath, I turned the handle. The door swung open, and the room was empty. No shadows, no figures, no whispers, nothing. The blankets on my bed were crumpled, my phone still lying face down on the floor. The closet door was slightly ajar, the way I had seen it earlier. Everything was exactly as I had left it, except for one thing: the air. It still felt wrong. Heavy, as if something unseen was still lingering, waiting, watching. I stepped inside cautiously, my skin prickling with unease. I reached for the lamp on my nightstand, flipping the switch. The bulb flickered before settling into a weak glow. And that's when I saw it. The message. 3 words, carved deep into the wooden surface of my closet door. Scratched in with something jagged, something rough, like desperate hands had etched it into the wood. Close the door. My breath caught in my throat. The letters were uneven, messy, like they had been made in a hurry. But they weren't there before. My fingers tingled with numbness as my mind raced. Was this a warning? A threat? Or worse? Was it unfinished? A deep chill crept up my spine. My instincts screamed at me to get out. Now. I grabbed my phone off the floor, backing away from the closet, my eyes never leaving the message. Close the door. I did. I shut the closet door. I shut my bedroom door. I locked the front door. And I never forgot again. The days passed, but the feeling never truly left me. Every night before I went to sleep, I checked the locks twice, 3 times, 4. I never left a door open, not even for a second, because now I knew the truth. It wasn't just about forgetting. It wasn't just a mistake. Something had been waiting. And when I left the door open, it finally got in. If you ever forget to close your door at night, just make sure you're the only one who walks in. It was a quiet night. The kind of night where even time seemed to stand still. The street outside my apartment was empty, save for the occasional flicker of headlights passing through the blinds. The wind whispered against the windows, and the distant hum of the city felt almost muted, as if the world had decided to rest for the night. I should have done the same. But exhaustion clung to me like a heavy fog. My body ached from the long hours at work, my mind sluggish from the weight of the day. All I wanted was sleep. Deep, dreamless, uninterrupted sleep. I barely noticed my surroundings as I stepped inside my apartment. Shoes kicked off. Bag dropped onto the floor. My jacket left forgotten over the chair. My limbs felt like they carried the weight of 1,000 worries, and I had no energy left to care. I walked straight to my bedroom, leaving a trail of disorder behind me, something I told myself I'd deal with in the morning. The apartment was silent. Too silent. But I was too tired to think about it. I slipped under the covers. the cold sheets pressing against my skin as I let out a heavy sigh. The moment my head touched the pillow, I felt myself sinking, drifting into the darkness of sleep. But then, something nagged at me, a tiny, unshakable feeling. You forgot something. I frowned, half awake, my eyes barely open. My mind tried to grasp the thought, but sleep was stronger, pulling me under like a relentless tide. Whatever it was, it could. Wait. I let myself go, falling deeper and deeper into unconsciousness. And that's when it happened. A sound. Faint. Distant. Barely there. A soft creak. Like a whisper in the night. My brows knitted together in sleep, my body stirring slightly. But I didn't wake up. I should have, because outside my bedroom, in the darkness of my apartment, my front door stood ajar, not locked, not even closed. Just slightly open, a small gap, just enough for someone to slip inside, and I had no idea. The first thing I felt was cold, a sharp, unnatural chill that crept across my skin, pulling me out of sleep. It wasn't like the usual midnight shivers or the draft from a slightly open window. No, this was different, heavier, as if something unseen had changed the air around me. I shifted under the covers, my groggy mind struggling to shake the weight of sleep. My apartment was always warm at night, so why did it feel so cold? And then, I heard it. A sound. Soft. Barely there. But enough to send an uneasy ripple through my body. Footsteps. At first I thought I was dreaming. That half-awake, half-asleep haze where reality blurs and sounds don't quite make sense. But as I lay there, perfectly still, I realized something terrifying. The footsteps weren't coming from outside. They were inside. Inside my apartment. A sudden spike of adrenaline shot through me, chasing away the last remnants of sleep. My pulse pounded in my ears as I strained to listen. Maybe I was imagining it. Maybe my tired brain was playing tricks on me. But then, another step. Closer. The floorboards barely creaked under the weight, but I heard it. A slow, deliberate shift in the wood. Someone was moving. Careful. Quiet. I held my breath. My phone. Where was my phone? I fought the urge to move, my eyes darting to my nightstand. My phone sat there, just inches away, its screen dark. If I moved too fast, I might make a sound. If I reached too slow, I might not reach it in time. Another step. My heart slammed against my ribs. This wasn't just some random apartment noise. This wasn't the pipes, the wind, or the usual creaks of an old building. This was real. Someone was in my home. A slow, deliberate breath filled the silence. Not mine. Close. Too close. My fingers twitched toward my phone. I tried to stay calm, tried to think rationally. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe the door had blown open from the wind, and the sound was just my mind playing tricks. But the feeling in my gut told me otherwise. Another sound. Not a step this time. A rustle. Like fabric brushing against the air. The faintest shift of movement. Swallowed hard, every muscle in my body tensed to the point of pain. If I turned my head, would I see someone standing in the shadows? Watching me? The thought made my stomach drop. I forced myself to breathe slowly, quietly. My fingers finally closed around my phone, gripping it tight. I tilted the screen ever so slightly, just enough to check the time. And then, the worst sound of all, a whisper. A single chilling breath of words, spoken so softly, I almost convinced myself I hadn't heard it. Almost. I see you. My entire body locked up. My lungs refused to work. The blood in my veins turned ice cold. Wasn't imagining this. I wasn't alone. Someone was in my room, watching me, waiting, and I had nowhere to run. Time stopped. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. I just lay there, my body paralyzed under the weight of sheer terror. My skin prickled, every hair standing on end, as if my body already knew what my mind refused to accept. Someone was in my room. I wanted to turn my head, to see who or what was there. But I couldn't. My body refused to move, locked in place by fear so intense it felt suffocating. And then, another sound. A step. Closer. I clenched my fists under the blanket, my fingers digging into my palms. My breaths were shallow, barely there, desperate to remain unnoticed. The whisper I'd heard still echoed in my ears. I see you. Had I imagined it? Had my exhausted brain twisted the rustling of fabric or the wind into words? But deep down, I knew the truth. It was real, and I wasn't alone. A shift in the darkness, the faintest creak of the floorboard near my closet. My stomach dropped. I wasn't sure what was worse, the thought of someone standing right there, watching me, or the fact that I still couldn't see them. I forced my breathing to stay slow and steady, though every instinct screamed for me to run. But where? I was trapped. If I moved too suddenly, I might provoke whoever was in the room with me. If I stayed still, I'd be waiting for something I couldn't see to make the first move. Another whisper. I barely caught it. You left the door open. My blood turned to ice. Whoever was in my apartment, they hadn't broken in. They had walked in because I had been careless, because I had been too exhausted to check. A wave of nausea hit me as I realized just how long they could have been inside. Had they been standing there for minutes? Hours? Had they watched me sleep, waiting for me to wake up? I had to do something. My phone. My fingers tightened around it. My only lifeline in the suffocating darkness. My heart pounded so loud I thought it would give me away. Slowly, so painfully slow, I moved my thumb toward the emergency dial. One press. That's all I needed. One press. And the mattress shifted. My breath hitched. Something, or someone, had moved. Right next to me. Panic surged through my veins like fire, my body screaming at me to run. I couldn't take it anymore. I lunged. In one desperate motion, I twisted onto my side and threw my phone at the darkness. It crashed against the floor with a loud, shattering sound, breaking the eerie silence. In that same instant, I bolted. I didn't think. I didn't look. I just ran. The blankets tangled around my legs, slowing me down, but I tore free. My feet hit the cold floor, and I stumbled toward the light switch, my hands shaking so badly I could barely find it. Behind me, movement. I felt, night at the shift of air, the presence lunging forward. Click, the room flooded with light. I spun around and saw nothing. The room was empty, the air was still, the silence deafening. But I knew what I had heard, what I had felt. And the worst part? My bedroom door was wide open, the same door I knew had been closed when I went to sleep. A slow, terrifying realization settled over me. Whoever had been in my room was no longer there. They were somewhere else, in my apartment, still watching, still waiting, and I had no idea where they were. The silence was worse than the whispers, worse than the footsteps, worse than the shifting mattress, worse than the suffocating presence I had felt lingering in the dark. Because now, I couldn't hear them. I stood there, my breath shallow, my pulse hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. The light cast sharp shadows across my room, stretching into the hallway where the door stood wide open. I had closed that door before I went to bed. I was sure of it. But someone, or something, had opened it. And now, they were gone. I swallowed, hard, my mind screaming for a solution, a way out. But the only thing louder than my fear was the silence pressing against my ears. The kind of silence that wasn't normal. The kind of silence that told you someone was holding their breath too. Listening. Waiting. I took a slow step toward the doorway, my bare feet making no sound against the cold floor. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but where? My apartment wasn't big. If they weren't in my room, they were somewhere else inside. Hiding. Were they behind the couch? The kitchen counter? The closet in the hallway? I swallowed, my throat dry. My phone was still, on the floor where I had thrown it, probably broken. I had no way to call for help, no weapon, no plan. I needed to get out. I needed to run. I crept toward the door, heart pounding so loud, I was sure they could hear it. Each step felt like it took forever, the hallway stretching longer and longer in my mind. My fingers brushed against the edge of the door frame. I paused, listened. Nothing. I peeked out. The living room was dark, except for the faint glow of the city lights bleeding through the blinds. Everything looked normal. Exactly how I had left it. Except for one thing. The front door. It was wide open. My stomach twisted. I had left it open. When I came home, hadn't I? That's how this started. But I didn't remember it being that wide. Like someone had left in a hurry, or worse. Like someone was still inside, watching to see if I'd run. A cold shiver crawled up my spine. I had two choices. Run for the door and risk whoever was in here catching me before I made it out. Or turn back, find a place to hide, and hope they wouldn't find me first. I had wasted enough time. I ran. Every muscle in my body exploded into movement. My bare feet pounding against the wooden floor as I launched myself toward the door. My breath came out in ragged gasps, my vision blurring with pure adrenaline. Just a few more steps. Something moved in the shadows, to my right, near the couch. Didn't turn. I didn't look. I just ran. The cold air of the hallway hit me like a slap as I burst through the open door. My hand scrambled for the knob, ready to slam it shut behind me. But then, just before I could pull it closed, a hand shot out from the darkness inside. Pale fingers, thin and impossibly fast, curled around the edge of the door. They were trying to stop me. I screamed, pure, raw terror, ripping through my throat as I threw my entire weight against the door. The hand didn't let go. Instead, it pushed back. I pushed harder. My legs burned, my arms shook, but I refused to let them win. I couldn't. For a split second, the pressure against the door eased, and I didn't wait to see why. With one last burst of strength, I slammed it shut, hard, and twisted the lock. Click. Silence. Stumbled backward, my chest heaving. My hands trembled as I pressed my palms flat against the door, my mind racing. Had they let go? Had they backed away? Or were they still standing on the other side, just inches away, waiting for me to make a mistake? I didn't wait to find out. I turned and ran down the hall, my feet barely touching the ground as I banged on the nearest neighbor's door. Nothing. I banged again, harder this time. Still nothing. The whole hallway felt empty, lifeless, as if the entire world had been swallowed into the same eerie silence that had filled my apartment. My breathing hitched. I turned back toward my door. The peephole. Slowly, my shaking body moved forward, until my eye was just inches from the tiny glass circle. I hesitated. Then, I looked. For a moment, I saw nothing. just darkness, an empty hallway. But then, something moved. So fast, a blur of pale skin, shifting just beyond the frame of my vision. Gone before I could fully register what I had seen. I stumbled back, my entire body numb with fear. What had I just witnessed? A trick of the light? My own exhausted mind playing games with me? Or had someone, or something, been standing right outside my door, watching me? I didn't know. But one thing was certain. I never should have left my door open at midnight.